Hi guys, FrostFangs here, welcome back once again, of course, to another Paladins video. We are on the PTS for the Shadows update, as I'm sure you're able to see with the new champion here, Vatu. Of course, there's a bunch of other stuff in this update as well, which I'll be covering over the course of the PTS cycle, but today's video is going to be focused on kind of an introduction on Vatu, so I don't need to explain him in future videos on the PTS. I will mention and talk about briefly some of the changes, because I'm really excited for some of them, but I'm not going to be going in depth, because I'll be doing that independently for like separate videos and stuff. The one thing I'm definitely the most excited about, which you can actually kind of see here if I go to the play screen, is that we're going to be having limited time modes in Paladins, which is something I've wanted for ages, like hide and seek. There's a bunch of other games with mechanics like this, and I'm really glad Paladins is going to be getting it, because it should mix it up from just the TDM Onslaught and Siege. But aside from that, there's balanced stuff, skins, all that. I'll get into that later, but Vatu is the focus. So let's go through his kit. His first thing, his left click, kunai, launches 3 from his hand, very similar to a Mave dagger with the way that it drops off, but you fire 3, 1 in the middle, 1 to the left, 1 to the right. You throw those 3 every 0.9, dealing 300 damage per kunai, and you have 5 ammo. The reload is really cool, probably my favorite reload ever in Paladins. You'll see it in a minute, and is fully effective up to 75 units, which isn't that much. Definitely not the worst or the best range. It's kind of in the middle, but you're meant to be kind of playing him up close, as you'll see with the rest of the kit. His right click is shadow bombs, so you throw out 3 explosive projectiles that stick to the target or the wall, whatever you hit, for 0.3 seconds, and then each explosive deals 10 damage when it first hits and 200 after it blows up in a 10 unit radius, and it has 150 units of range before it just auto explodes in the air. Then the Q, which is his ambush, which is kind of his movement ability next to his dash, which is also kind of similar to a few other characters. I'd actually say his kit in general is a bit of a mismatch from a bunch of other flanks. He's got elements from Andro, elements from Koga, elements from Maven. I'm sure you'll see that as we go through it, but yeah, his Q is direct damage, so is everything other than his right click. It has an 11-second cooldown. The shadow bombs had 10, and this teleports you to your next target, deals 200 damage, which isn't very much, but you can refire it a second time. I think there's chance to alter it as well within 4 seconds on a different target. The damage hits in a 20 unit radius and is fully effective up to 10. That doesn't really matter too much. It's basically just a teleport to somebody. If you hit an enemy, you'll deal some damage, and I think there's a talent that lets you do it to friendlies as well. It has a range of 85. Then the F, which is your main movement ability, your dash, has a 5-second cooldown. You move 40 units in the direction that you're moving, so you can look forward and dash backwards. You can look actually down and knock yourself up, which is kind of interesting. You do carry momentum with it. It is pretty fluid. It does have 3 charges, and during the dash you actually have 60% damage reduction, which is kind of interesting, although it is pretty short. Then finally his ultimate, which is called Nightfall, which is probably the most unique part about his kit, although the rest is also pretty damn cool. I'm looking forward to playing him a lot. He seems like he's going to be really good fun. This one is a little bit harder to explain without you actually seeing it, but you basically start charging up. You can reactivate it to actually finish it a little bit sooner. I think the max time is like 2 seconds or something. Yeah, maximum charge is 2 seconds, minimum is 0.5, and it will automatically fire after 3 seconds. You can't actually cancel it. You'll just dash through your enemies, but basically you dash extremely quickly. It's nearly instant. You deal 800 damage, or I think it's up to 800, and you also stun them for 1.25. I'm actually not sure if the damage is flat or not. I'll actually have to test that because I can't remember. You're actually immune to crowd control while you're charging, so you can't be like stunned out of it or anything, or it's basically just like a charge up dash. I don't really know how else to explain it. It's kind of like a Mave dash that goes through people, and it's got like a line thing. It's hard to explain, but you'll see it all in game. But that's it for his kit. For the talents, he has of course 3 Omnipresence, which gives your ambush an additional charge, so it goes from 2 to 3, the teleport ability, and you can use it on your allies. That's the one you get by default. Then at level 2 you unlock the one that buffs out your bombs. Your right click, it increases the radius by 5 units and also makes them kind of home onto enemies, a little bit like a lock-on missile. Then finally Enveloping Shadows, which is the one you get at level 8, reduces the cooldown of your basic abilities by 15% after you hit somebody with at least 1 kunai, and this can actually only activate once per throw, so you can only get 15% regardless of how many people you hit with as many kunais. You can only get 15% off of those cooldowns. Seems kind of interesting as well. I'm not really sure just from reading them here which one will be the best. It's kind of hard to judge, which is somewhat different to the other character releases we've had, because usually one of them is a little bit better than the rest. But this is Vatu. His tagline is the Shadow. He's a flanker. He has 1900 health. Probably should have said that first. He's actually releasing with a bunch of skins which change him up quite a bit, so I'm interested to see what they do in the future. His character design is top notch, although his face looks a little bit weird to me, especially with the limited version of the skin. It just seems a little weird, although I reckon that's just me. I haven't heard anybody else say anything about it. One thing that I did also notice, which I wanted to point out, is his kunais in-game are way smaller than they are in like the promo art and in the model here, and I imagine in third person as well they'll display a little bit bigger, but in first person they're actually like smaller than the size of his hand. It's kind of a weird disparity that I noticed. It's not going to matter at all. I don't know if also anybody else has noticed that. One cool thing about the skins is it does actually change the pattern on kind of his outfit here, which is again top bloody notch. He has Sorrow, which is a very green and very gold one. Massive gameplay disadvantage with this, I would imagine, because this will stand out like mad. And then the golden one, which is one of the best golden skins we've had in a while. Overall I think it just fits in really well. He looks fantastic with that. Obviously for the weapons it's the same thing. For the emotes, his default one is pretty fancy for a default emote, I'm gonna be honest. And then Meditation, where he just straight up hovers. Then for the MVP poses, the standard one where he's just stood there and poised, where he's kind of jumping, although he seemed to get further away on the second time I clicked it. Bit weird. And yeah, for the cards we'll go through those as well. We'll go from top left to bottom right. We'll start with the ambush. Gathering Shadow gives you damage reduction after your ambush ends. It applies applies on each ambush in the chain. So if you're going for a setup that maxes out the teleport ability, this will probably be a card that you'll run. Very similar card, but with a heal instead of damage reduction, a bit of extra radius on the damage, which might work well if you're going up against people who are super clustered. I imagine this at like level 5 or maybe be noticeable, but the radius is pretty damn small, so maybe this will just be a throwaway card. Then the last one, which just increases the range of ambush by 10%. This seems like a pretty solid card. For the dash, he has one that gives him a heal, which levels a little bit interestingly. You heal for 100 of his 0.5 for 0.5, and then if you up it, it reduces the heal by like a tiny bit and also increases the duration. Not many cards I see in game do this. To me at least, it seems like it will be a pretty good card. We have ultimate gen every time you use the dash, and then leveling it reduces the actual timer on it. Another interesting card. Not many cards level like that. Extraction, which just increases the movement speed after you use your dash, and then also cooldown reduction for the dash whenever you hit somebody with your shadow bombs. Then for the shadow bombs, we actually have one that gives us damage reduction as well, similar to ambush. After we use the bombs, ammo gen, a bit of a heal, and then also reset on the bombs whenever we get a kill or in a limb. Then finally, for the armor and the weapon, you can have your ambush reset when you drop below a percentage of your health. A very common card that I reckon will see a decent amount of usage. Same thing with the health increase, both pretty standard. This one to me was quite interesting. Ult gen whenever you hit somebody with your ultimate, up to 25%, which isn't something we've really seen before. You're getting your ultimate back for hitting somebody with your ultimate, or at least it's very uncommon, so maybe this will be useful. Kind of hard to tell. The ultimate to me didn't seem like the strongest ability ever because you're kind of stuck in place while you're winding it up, but maybe it's hard to tell. And then increased base jump height by 30%, another card that we haven't seen before. It does fit into his kit and his personality kind of well, so it'll be interesting to see if this one sees use. Maybe on some maps this will be a nice choice. Don't pay any attention to the build I have set up here. I'm not actually going to be using this. I just put it together really quickly and was playing around with some of the leveling and stuff and some of the cards that I thought were a little bit more interesting, but yeah, don't pay any attention to that. I haven't even played him yet. Right, well, that was a 20-minute intro. Hopefully I was able to cut that down into something that made sense and kept it relatively short. We're going to now jump into the target practice and mess around with him a little bit, give you my first impressions, show off the abilities and stuff. Shout out to a bunch of guys who actually wished me happy birthday on Twitter. I really appreciated that. I didn't actually mention it anywhere. I'm mentioning it in this video because it was on the 29th and it's the reason why I missed a bunch of them. But yeah, shout out to you guys for wishing me happy birthday. Really do appreciate it. We'll go ahead and grab Vatu here and just grab any of them. Don't think it really matters. We'll grab that. Why not? And yeah, here is a look at the weapon. The effects are fantastic. The animations look really cool. He has his arms a little bit weirdly wide and your like kind of camera position is like in his chest, which is again also a little bit different, but the effects on that look really cool. And the reload is probably my favorite reload ever. Looks incredibly cool. He's spinning the exact same kunai around in his hand, which is kind of funny, but it just looks really good. I don't care that it doesn't make sense. It looks fantastic. So yeah, these are just the base weapon. They fan out pretty quickly, so you do want to be pretty close to your enemy to be able to deal the max amount of damage. I guess we can try the dash. It's just pretty straightforward. It has a little bit of momentum carry. It's not the same as an Andro dash. Don't really know how to explain it, but it is very different to an Andro dash. Just if you imagine like the movement on a curve, it feels a lot more natural, and Andro's is a little bit more jerky, but the weapon does deal pretty good damage. If you're hitting all of them here, you're going to take somebody out pretty damn quick. We'll grab some chronos so we can spam the abilities a little bit more, but if you look straight down, you hold backwards, you can actually dash straight in the air and then dash over this way. It's going to be hectic going up against my boy Vatu in matches, I would imagine, but playing him I'd kind of put in a similar level to Eevee and Andro, where you are hectic, but you're also pretty controlled. His movement is just really fluid. It feels really nice to just kind of dash around with him there. That's aside from the Q, which with the talent we grabbed, we can actually use towards our friendlies. I imagine if you combo that Q in with some dashes, you're going to have a lot of movement. We can dash over here, dash to the Victor, we can dash up this way, and then kind of go back down with a Q. You're going to have a lot of movement. It is, again, very fluid. I didn't actually expect it to feel this kind of natural moving around. Also want to give mad props to whoever did the inspect for this weapon. The little tweak there with the fingers and the flip round. It just looks so goddamn fun. I think overall, the thing I've instantly just grabbed from playing him for like 2 seconds here is just the word satisfying. He feels really fluid. Guess I should show you the right click as well while we're here. There is the right click that actually goes out the left hand and then explodes shortly after. The Q's range is quite a bit bigger than I thought it was though. When they showed it off in the stream, it didn't seem like it was as long. I suppose that kind of explains it. The one I was using before had 20%. They actually all have it by default though. Kind of interesting. They all have it either level 2 or 3, the actual base builds, but with it level 2, it still feels like a decently long ability. You can't activate it on the same person multiple times though. That is something that I, for some reason, didn't even think about, but yeah, obviously you can't do it on the same person twice unless you flick to somebody else. So if you're fighting one person, you're either going to have an ally there or an enemy to be able to hit the same person with it twice, and even then you've only got 3 charges, so realistically you're kind of meant to use it like this, just dashing around to multiple people, and the damage radius actually isn't tiny. It's hitting the other victors here. Again, for the right click, we'll just go ahead and detonate that. Does 10 damage, which is just to kind of give you a bit of confirmation, I suppose, that you landed it. Then it deals 200. If we grab the talent, let's see how big the actual explosion radius is. I actually want to test this out. We'll throw it here. Is that going to hit the victor? Oh, obviously it homes in onto him, so it's going to move. Just want to see if it'll hit any of them. If I just stand here, oh wow, it actually will go straight to the victor who's right there. It is really hard to judge here from the talents. Like I said, which one will be the one that people use the most. Honestly, all of them seem solid. None of them seem terrible. Omnipresence gives you extra movement options. This gives you just general reset. Then this one gives you a bit of extra damage and just a bit of extra assist onto that right click. And if you're throwing them at somebody who's really far away, that is going to kind of help you, but also maybe mess you up that was weird. It kind of swerved around him a bit there. Yeah, I guess I should show you the ultimate. If we go for the ult, seems like it actually lags a little bit behind there if you're in the air, which is kind of interesting. And then you'll dash straight through. It's not instant, but it is very, very quick. If I go up here like this, cast the ult, I imagine that's kind of how you'll use it, something like that. Like if I dash here in the air, go ahead and use it and then cancel. I'll dash like a super short distance. You can actually kind of see because it leaves a bit of a trail just to give you a bit of an indication of where he came from. But there is the dash. But yeah, the range on it isn't all that long. If you do cast it and then instantly cancel, you actually won't go the full distance. It seems like you only go the full distance after it's fully charged. And I actually want to test if the damage is 800 regardless, because I want to know if you can actually just use it straight in somebody's face. So if I go here and just instantly cancel it, it will actually deal the full 800. Didn't know that. So the damage is 800 regardless, and then the actual time you charge is actually just the length of where you're going to dash. Would be kind of cool if you stopped in the air, but I guess that would make him kind of similar to Andro, and then you just go ahead and dash through the Ying. You could get just insane amounts of damage on somebody before they're out of that stun if they don't have any CC reduction. Definitely going to be that ability where you just go on somebody with this ultimate and you finish them off in like half a second. Even with tanks, I feel like at this sort of range, you're going to be able to really go through somebody if you combo with like the right click and stuff. After having messed around with him here for like a couple minutes, I feel like it would be kind of hard to argue that he's overpowered. I feel like you could argue that he's very, very good, but I think OP wouldn't really be a great word to describe him just from, again, the small minutes I've been playing him. Not that he seems like a bad character at all. He just doesn't have any elements that I can instantly point out as being like really, really overpowered. I think he'll be annoying as hell to go against, that's for sure. He seems like he's going to be able to put like a lot of pressure on you, move around a ton, like easily get rid of you if you're kind of lingering on your own. Don't really think the word I'd use to describe him would be overpowered, but maybe you disagree with me if you've had a chance to play him on the PTS for yourself. The right click feels like it should deal a little bit more damage, even with the talent. Maybe the talent should buff it out a little bit, but I throw the right click on somebody, it doesn't slow them, it doesn't do anything other than explode and deal like 600. It doesn't feel like that much, especially when just the left click deals like 900 at point blank range. I guess you could kind of combo it in. I wonder how fast we can combo it in. If we go left click, right click, and then left click again, I guess that's how you're meant to use it, and then it does feel pretty good. I'm honestly just really excited for Vatu. I'm sure if you've been watching the channel for long enough, you'll know that these sort of characters always appeal to me. I usually have a really, really good time running around with these sort of flankers and just causing a bit of a mess. He's going to be kind of difficult to play. I wouldn't really recommend him for, you know, new players or anything. That's not to say that I think he's really, really difficult or like impossible to play. I think he's just like an intermediate level. I wouldn't recommend him to new players, and he's clearly not targeted towards new players either. Yeah, I think that's everything I've got to say for Vatu. If I missed anything, I'll try and leave it in like a comment or some sort of note on the video as I'm putting it together. I'm not sure, but I feel like I covered everything and mentioned everything that I wanted to. Seems like a really fun, really interesting character. I'm really excited for him. I'm also super excited for the limited time modes. I'm looking forward to making a bunch of videos on those. Of course, I'm just looking at the list now and seeing if there's anything else that massively stands out to me. The grok change is interesting with the totems. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll be making a video on it sometime soon, but that is a pretty big change if that does go through. The change to Grover Ultimate is also really cool. That's something I talked about, I think, in a recent video when I actually played Grover, where you would instantly lose all of it if you got killed like the second you activated it. That change is great. For the balance, the rest of the stuff is pretty much what you would expect. We've got a bunch of skins, of course. I'll be covering those, a new mount, and also the remade version of Jaguar Falls. It's probably the least remade out of the set we've had. I'll, of course, be covering it in future videos. One thing that I have noticed, though, with him really quickly, that's a bug where if you're falling, it seems to not update very quickly, and I imagine a lot of people are going to be using it like that, kind of in the air, so you're not easily, you know, hittable, because standing on the floor like this isn't going to be, I think, the way most people use it. So I reckon if possible, before he goes into live, that should be something that's fixed, because, yeah, if you're, you know, in the air, you're doing that, it's really, really weird to just see it kind of tick the way that it does. The ultimate does seem like the weirdest part of his kit to me. The rest feels super fluid, super nice, but I think the ultimate is probably the part I'm most iffy on. I just can't wait for Vatu to actually be out in Paladins. He seems like the sort of character that I'm going to put a lot of time into. But I hope you have enjoyed today's introduction video. I'll have more stuff on the PTS, of course, coming in the next couple of days. Let me know what you want to see me cover first before other stuff, if there's anything. So yeah, thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys all very, very soon, and as always, stay frosty. Vatu would be perfect for a frosty skin, by the way. Didn't mention that in the video. Thinking of it just now, he would be perfect. He could have flipping icicles or something. It'd be great.